Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today we have another episode of Will It Cosmere. So this is going to be basically a new series that I do where I'm just going to basically take general sci-fi concepts or regular like science concepts and see how they would fit into the Cosmere and through which methods of the Cosmere will we need to employ in order to make it work. So today I want to talk about robots. So this is going to be a fairly easy one because you would immediately think the obvious answer is of course robots work in the Cosmere if we don't already have them. So I want to kind of dive into that and talk about it and, philosophize about it a little bit. So yeah, as always, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and if you're interested in Patreon, you can check that out. Link is in the description. So as always, let's begin. All right, so let's talk about robots in the Cosmere. So immediately it would be pretty obvious to assume that of course you can like create robots in the Cosmere. We've seen various different things like awakened machines and basically things that are pure technology that have been run through awakening, various levels of fabrial technology and just general regular science that seems to exist on various planets. So there's multiple ways in which you could probably do this, but I'm trying to think of a way in which we could basically employ some very simple investiture or Cosmere realmatics, but would make a robot in a way that we really classically think of them. So, first one I kind of want to eliminate is awakening, because we've seen things like awakened machines and that kind of thing, and lifeless and everything. So it would be an immediate assumption that you would just say, of course, you could just basically build what is essentially a mannequin and then awaken it, and you could call that a robot. But I wouldn't really call that a robot because that is closer to some level of sentience or whatever, or sapience. I always mix up the meaning of those two. But and it also, I think, would majorly depend on the command that you would give it. So say like how we have in Yumi the idea of these awakened machines. Like, first of all, the machine is completely inorganic and never has been in any likeness of a living form. So it would probably require a crap ton of breaths in order to do it, or just a significant amount of investiture. And it would all depend on the command. So as far as we know in Yumi, like that command is basically take investiture to it boiled down to steal people's souls, but basically it was a fairly simple command that kind of made up the entire bulk of what this machine would do. So I think any use of awakening will have the same result. So if you were to use like to make a computer, an awakened computer, what command would you give that computer? So that's going to be my question for the comments also. In order to make an awakened computer function exactly as we use computers now, with near infinite possibilities you can use the computer for, what command would you give it? How would you replicate that level of versatility through an awakened command? Let me know about that in the comments down below. I'm very curious to know what kind of commands you all will come up with. So yeah, definitely let me know about that in the comments. But I basically have an issue with that because I would think any type of command you come up with would have a level of rigidity to it. It would have a certain level of parameters in which would allow it to work. It wouldn't be as universally versatile as the way we use computers. So I would think that there would be an inherent limitation to any form of awakening technology. So I would basically discard that as a possibility. So say we use fabrial technology. We will basically have to use fabrial technology theoretically in a way that is closest to analogous to what we actually do as far as computer technology goes. Granted, I don't know the ins and outs of how computers work. I haven't built any yet. I haven't completely gone into it and all that stuff. But I know the significant way in which computers work is through multiple different pieces of hardware that work in concert. So if you were to basically use fabrials, you will basically have to invent specific fabrials that will replicate these different things that will work in concert with each other. So similar to the way in which the fourth bridge was created. Learn about minor applications of fabrial and then push it and then like add a different modifier to it in order to get a completely different outcome and usage of it. So I would imagine that's what it would have to be, but I think again it would be incredibly limited because of the way in which fabrial technology works. So I don't see it being able to even make a full computer, much less a full robot. So the creation of AI would ultimately, I mean, I guess the easiest way to kind of get AI from the Cosmere is to use investiture and just allow it to become self aware. But that's not the same as AI, so that's not quite the same. But I would assume that anywhere in the Cosmere, they would probably use a method like that. So I would think it would just totally, basically be like partially awakened material mixed with some Fabrio tech mixed with a probably not even like a whole great deal of effort. They would probably just put a Sion in it, like just bond the Sion to the see, I wouldn't count that as a robot either. Say you created an automaton and just bound a Sion to it, and then you'd be kind of like Kelsier with the Sion and a cloak kind of thing with just just a hood over the glowing ball thing. But in terms of ways you can kind of replicate the idea, but in a fairly simplistic way using investiture and, Cosmere related things, I would think probably using a Xeon would be like an easy shortcut to AI and probably some awakened technology plus Fabrials. So it would probably have to be some sort of combination of that in order to get a very basic one. But I still think it will be highly limited and probably just like arduous to actually create. So I think the only place in the Cosmere that we have learned about so far where we could make something like that perfectly, like perfectly analogous to a robot on Earth while being exclusive to Cosmere, technology, would have to be on what is the planet called? I can't remember what the planet's called, but the planet that Yumi and the Nightmare Painter takes place on. The planet the planet with Heon lines. I think it would absolutely have to be there. The greatest hint, obviously, is the machine that starts to take souls and everything. So I would imagine the simplest way to do it would be to build the robot much like they build any of their other technology, because they have things like TVs and computers and like cash registers and all that kind of stuff on that planet. So I would build the robot like a regular robot, just, I guess all the circuitry and everything works to a degree a similar way it would on Earth, but it's all powered by the Heon lines. So I wonder if you could create a creature, a robot that is powered by Heon lines enough and has enough of a concentration of Heon lines that it could become some sort of self-aware, or could be used to basically enhance technology to a level of AI, which in my head would then work in concert with the investiture that powers it and then become self-aware, not to this level of a Spren, but I think it would create something like what Ox became in Sunlit Man. So that would be kind of fascinating. I would think it would definitely have to exist on that planet. I can't think of anywhere else in the Cosmere that would have technology analogous to that. I mean, granted, you could probably do it with some sort of allomantic abilities. Not really, probably not. I can't think of how you would as easily. You could almost definitely do it with as an Elantrian. You could probably just come up with a highly advanced level of glyphs that would just create it and build it, but it will also again be powered by investiture. So again, I can't think of that many different places where it would totally work out. But I think the one world where it will work out seamlessly is the world where Yumi and the Nightmare Painter takes place on, because they have things like instant ramen, which implies like a microwave type technology. They have TV that completely uses Heon lines to even make the picture of the what that they're watching on the TV. So I would imagine you could just build out a robot and then power it by Heon lines, and it will work pretty much like a robot, but probably far more efficiently, because it would probably be somewhere near a level of advanced artificial intelligence or self-awareness, because the way in which investiture works. Or is the Heon lines such a diluted form of investiture that it would never reach a level of self-awareness, because I would imagine that the amount that they use to, run their rocket ships and their TVs and pretty much all the technologies of this world, I would imagine that they would have run into something like that at this point, or at least at some point, or rumors of something like that having happened maybe, but we don't get any mention of it in the book. But I would be very fascinated to know if that kind of thing would happen, putting it in such a situation where it's such a mimicry of human form and of life. So I wonder if it would just, have a similar effect to Awakening, that the form it's in is so analogous to life that the investiture just more easily becomes self-aware or something like that, or aware enough. So yeah, I guess before I just fall into complete ramble mode, that's kind of my conclusion. I think the only planet in the Cosmere that I can think of, at least in terms of the timelines that we're, exposed to at this point and the level of technology we're exposed to at this point, I think the only place you could make a robot, something that is quite similar to a robot that we have on Earth, would have to be on the planet where Yumi and the Nightmare Painter takes place. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up there. But of course, let me know in the comments down below. If you were trying to make a computer that works the way our computers work, and you were doing this on Nalthus, what command, or I guess I'll say 3 commands, what 1, 2, or 3 commands would you give the technology in order to make it function like a computer? Let me know about that in the comments down below. That sounds very fascinating. I'm very curious to know what you all think. So yeah, as always, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and check out the Patreon. The link is in the description if you're interested. So as always, I will talk to y'all next time. Peace.